I was shooting a few interesting macro photos, so I thought I would share this and try to shoot video since my nice camera has this capability. Macro is difficult at this level. Every little vibration counts. So you need a shutter speed that can capture it, but you also need depth of field. You lose all your depth of field. Unfortunately, under video, this is kind of automatic on my Canon 5D Mark II, mind you, but it seems to work pretty good. So this is a coffee cherry from my yard, which I've done a crosscut on. I just wanted to show you a few things that are interesting. I'll get to this in a second, but you know, basically in a cherry you have several layers. You have the exocarp, which is the skin, which you can barely see here, but that's the reddish tint on the outside. Inside of that is going to be pulp, which is the fruit in here. Now if you can see, I think here's pulp, but right here around the casing is the second layer of pulp, which is mucilage, which is the inner mesocarp. So pulp is the outer mesocarp and mucilage is the inner mesocarp. And I've used those terms wrongly. I've used those interchangeably. So they actually designate different things. So mucilage is right around the coffee. Then you have the parchment layer, what dries into parchment later, which is the endocarp, and then you have the seed. Then there's that fine layer, I can't remember what that is called, which is, you know, we call in the business silver skin, and comes off in the coffee and chaff. And you can see how it wraps inside the coffee, so that, you know, holds on even as the bean expands, and you get a little bit of chaff right here. So what's interesting about this coffee is we have a successful ovule here, and we have a failed one. This would be a floater in wet processing. This is a coffee, empty parchment that even if it's intact would float in the tank, and it would be skimmed off on the surface. And a lot of times in a cherry like this, one floats and one sinks. So you still have a good cherry, you still have one good seed, but it will be a floater. The machines nowadays can take care of that, and they'll rescue the good seed. If you can see, I just think this is really interesting. So if you might not be able to tell, but this is a big just air gap in space, and this is the shriveled little seed. Reminds me of, you know, walnuts I've opened, where you get that shriveled seed inside. But I think it's pretty cool, and I think it's interesting for us to remember that this fruit that we're dealing with, that we source coffee from, and that this is the system that feeds the seed, part of the system that feeds the seed that results in quality. And I think all these things are absent in our final product, but they're so important in good coffee. So I thought I would share that with you. This is Tom. I work for Sweet Maria's Coffee.